How them a try to test me? Go on, test the rocket launcher.
I know you scared, the blood stain was red. I filled them with lead. Hip hop is dead, he worked for the feds. I blew off his head.
Hey DJ Moby TV fans, what's going on? This is of course DJ Moby. Now, earlier I hope you all liked that new theme song I had. That was Esham's 6 Million. Now, let me explain why I decided to change theme songs even though I started that new intro. Well, you see, as much as I love Tech 9 and the song Nothing, I just felt like, I don't know, I was starting to grow, grow away from that song. And the reason why I decided to choose Esham's 6 Million was because I just felt that song fitted me the most, because how I am of course a rapper myself, and I like to spit, that kind of rap about the horror and the violence and the murder and stuff. How he says in the song, "'cause the wicked will never die." But again, I just felt like that song would fitted me the most, and I think from here on in I will just start to use that song more. Excuse me. Now you're probably saying to yourself, okay, DJ Moby, why aren't you showing your face? Well, tonight I decided to do something different and show you all a little collection of mine. Now, last year you all saw me show off my hat collection, and of course you all have seen my CD collections and the appreciation videos I've done towards my favorite rappers, Eminem, Psychopathic Records, Tech 9. Well, tonight I decided to do something a little special with my DVD collections. Just put that one back up there. Now, what you're seeing right here is a collection of all my horror movies. And I know you see up there at the top all my wrestling stuff, but I will probably show that to y'all in another video. But tonight I decided to show you all my scary movies. Now, it's no secret that I love scary movies, mostly zombie movies. But tonight I decided to show you all my scary movies here on DVD. And I have some on VHS, and I can dig those up later on in this video. But what do you say we get started and I show you all my horror movies?
Serial slaughter and strangulars, succulent, juggling jugulars, falling fat, floppy.
Now, let's pull out this one I put back on the shelf earlier, because this is my second time recording this, or actually a third time. Let's start off with Cabin Fever. Now, I love this movie, and everybody knows the guy who plays Sean from Boy Meets World, Ryder Strong, is in this movie. And I like this movie a lot, especially my good friend Kirby. And basically what it is about a group of college students who go into the woods and they get a disease, a flesh-eating disease, and it makes them sick, throwing up blood, and it causes them to turn against each other and stuff. It's really crazy. And I just love the whole format of the film, kids go into the woods, into a cabin to have fun, and basically all hell breaks loose. Kind of reminds you of the Evil Dead movies, which I have, but we will get to those momentarily. But I love this movie a lot, Cabin Fever. Now, there's also a sequel called Cabin Fever Spring Fever, I believe. Cabin Fever 2 Spring Fever. And it's really a weird movie because it really doesn't take place at a cabin. It takes more place at a prom, mostly. And it's kind of weird. So, yeah. Excuse me. Dang sinuses. I've been sick here lately. I'm starting to feel better, I think. Now, let's start off with the 1978 version of Dawn of the Dead. Now, of course, this is a classic right here, and this is directed by the famous George Romero, but this is the original cover right here, Dawn of the Dead. And of course, basically what it's about, 4 people go into a shopping mall, to take refuge. They fight zombies. But of course this went down as one of the greatest horror movies of all time. And of course this is probably George Romero's best movie of all time. Well, no, I don't know. It's a tie between this movie and Night of the Living Dead. But, of course, Dawn of the Dead. And the reason I can't really watch this movie anymore because the disc is all defected and everything. So, I can only get to the part where they start running around the mall trying to get stuff like TVs and clothes and food and everything. But I really can't watch that movie anymore because, again, it's defected. And then, of course, the remake, the 2004 version of Dawn of the Dead. Now, this movie was pretty good for a remake, because, you know, anytime you always watch a remake nowadays, it always got to suck. But this right here is good. I mean, I liked it. And it was really cool because, you know, awfully odd because it had more characters in the movie. And, of course, it's probably one of the only zombie movies to make the zombies run. And of course it's got Mekhi Phifer and Ving Rhames, which is pretty cool. But I like this movie. You know, I don't care what people think. I actually think it's a good movie. And now, moving on, let's go to Dawn of the Living Dead. Now this movie, I found it at Walmart, and it's one of them low budget movies. And it's famous because it's got Todd Bridges, the guy who played Willis off Different Strokes. Yeah, he's in this movie for like maybe half of the film, and he plays like a mentally retarded guy or something. But yeah, it's a weird movie. I don't know why I got it. I guess because I'm just a zombie film lover. But yeah, it's okay. I don't watch it as much. Now let's go on to Day of the Dead. Bum bum bum. Okay. Now this movie, of course, has really actors whose names I do not know, but of course on the cover that's Bub, the zombie who is probably the famous zombie of all time. I mean, out of this whole movie, because you know he's really an intelligent zombie. You know, he can shoot a gun and salute people and just do all kinds of things. And it's kind of cool because in the movie he kills the villain, the bad guy. What was his name? Captain Rhodes, I think. You know, because that guy, he was just crazy in the film. He was like one of the soldiers, and he goes crazy and starts killing people. And then when the zombie breakout comes in, you know, yeah. Sorry, I haven't really watched my movies in a long time. It's been quite a while. And now, moving on, let's go to The Dead Hate the Living. Now, this movie was actually a very interesting movie. And it says right here, unique. Said by Tom Savini. Now this movie is pretty darn good. I mean, basically what it's about these group of filmmakers who go into a hospital to make a movie, and on their way in, you know, they encounter this dead body, and you know, then they find this pretty neat, sweet coffin, and they're like, you know what? Let's be original. Let's do something that no scary movie has ever done before. Let's use a real corpse in our movie, because you know, no telling how many kids would be lined up at theaters just to see this, you know, which is kind of weird. I mean, who would use a real dead body for a scary movie? And so it all comes back and bites them in the behind as they accidentally bring the dead body back to life and open up a portal, releasing other dead bodies, releasing other zombies from this undead world. And it's kind of crazy, and then they're all fighting for survival, and you know, it's weird. But yeah, this character right here, he's one freaky person. So yeah. But if you haven't seen this movie, I suggest you watch it, because who knows, you might be surprised. Moving on. Death Valley, The Revenge of Bloody Bill. Now basically what this movie is about, I found this on the Sci-Fi Channel and I watched it and it was really cool. And it's basically Revenge of the Bloody Bill. He was basically, let's see. He was a Civil War raider named Bloody Bill Anderson, and he killed men, women, and children. But yeah, basically these college students, they go to this little abandoned town, this ghost town, where it's haunted by Bloody Bill's spirit or body or whatever it is, and he's got an army of zombies and everything who he can control. He can control their minds and everything. And so yeah, basically kids fighting for survival, trying to get out of the ghost town, but most of them die, and yeah. Sorry, not much of a talker here today, but I just wanted to show off my scary movies because I was bored. Alright, moving on. Now this is a 2 movies in 1 DVD. Here you got Bordello of Blood and Demonite. Now everybody remembers the old show Tales from the Crypt that used to come on Fox back in the 90s. And I really don't watch this movie a lot, Bordello of Blood. This movie was the one that caught my attention, Demonite. And it was pretty cool. It's about this guy, he's trying to get like these 7 keys, and he's got 6 of them, but he just needs 1 more, and it's from this, and he needs to get it from this other guy. So what the guy does, he runs to this hotel for to try and escape this dude, but he's able to track him down and stuff with the help of the police. And so they find out that the guy wants the keys. He wants to use them to control the universe and everything. And so this guy who has the key that he wants actually gets all the people in the hotel to band together and help him fight off him, this collector, this evil collector, and his group and his army of minions, these demons. And the only way you can kill these demons is by shooting them in their eyes. And most of them actually become demons themselves, the hotel dwellers. And the way you become a demon is you gotta sell your soul for something you desire for. One girl sells her soul for true love. One guy sells his soul for alcohol. It's pretty unique movie, and I love it. Demonite. Yeah, I was always a huge fan of Tales from the Crypt. I used to watch it back when I was a kid. Never gave me nightmares. Bordello of Blood, basically vampires, blah blah blah. Vampires, blah blah blah. But yeah. But that's pretty good. And of course, The Devil's Rejects. Ugh, my arms are getting tired. I still need to get a tripod, ladies and gentlemen. The Devil's Rejects, of course, made by the famous Rob Zombie. From left to right, there is Sherry Moon Zombie, who is Rob Zombie's wife. Of course, Sid Haig and Bill Moseley. And basically, these 3 people going on a killing spree. If you haven't seen this movie, then you need to see it. I haven't seen House of a Thousand Corpses, and the only reason why I bought this movie was because it had one of my favorite actors, Ken Foree. Everybody knows Ken Foree, of course, the guy who played in the original Dawn of the Dead, and he also played the father off Kenan and Kel. But I like this movie a lot. Don't really watch it in a while, haven't really watched it in a while, but you can't say this is a bad movie. I mean, come on. Rob Zombie, he, for a rock star, he creates some pretty good movies. Also, this movie has Michael Berryman, the guy who played Pluto from The Hills Have Eyes. It's pretty cool. Dang these darn sinuses. I'm sorry if I'm grossing anybody out, but hey, this is my show. I can do what I want to. And now, moving on. The Evil Dead. Starring the oh-so-legendary Bruce Campbell. Now, this was a low-budget film, B-grade movie, but actually that became an instant classic. And The Evil Dead, it was originally entitled The Book of the Dead. That's what the guy who directed the movie, Sam Raimi, wanted to call it. But one of their friends had to barge in and be like, "Oh, don't call it the Book of the Dead. People will think they'll have to read for 90 minutes. Call it The Evil Dead." Now, and that's how, and the name pretty much stuck, Evil Dead. You can call it Book of the Dead still if you want to. Call it anything you want. Or call it the Bruce Campbell movie. Nah, who cares? Anyway, let's move on before I start to trail off here. But anyway, it's about these college students who go to a cabin in the woods for a vacation, and they encounter this book called Necronomicon Ex Mortis, translated Book of the Dead. And so they look at it, and of course the book is bound in human flesh and inked in human blood, and the book has the power to resurrect demons and everything. So one day, they go down in the basement and discover the book along with a tape recorder with, and they all gather around the campfire, the fireplace, and they actually turn on the recorder, and it has this guy, this scientist, who's actually translating some of the words from the book, and turning on that tape recorder actually resurrects these demons and brings them to life. Now, this movie has one crazy scene where a girl is getting raped by the woods, and it is crazy. And, like these trees and these twigs, and they're like tying around her body, and they take her down, and then, proceeding to rape her, and it was crazy. And it sounded like the woman liked it too. I mean, that's crazy. Who'd have thought, you could have sex with with the woods? I guess Mother Nature needs loving too. But yep, Bruce Campbell is a freaking legend of this movie. This movie probably made him famous the most. I mean, of course, this was his first film he ever was in. And of course, he's actually good friends with the guy who directed the movie, Sam Raimi. But I like this movie, and I really can't watch it because, again, this one is defected too, of all things. What is it with me always getting defected DVDs? I guess since it was used, most of the movies I buy from Hastings are used. Moving on, The Evil Dead 2, or Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, scratch the word "the" out. Now, of course, this is a sequel to the original Evil Dead, and this movie, unlike the first one, is really crazy. It has a lot of comedy in it, and of course, this is the movie where Bruce chops his hand off with a chainsaw and replaces it with a chainsaw, actually. Because his hand becomes possessed and everything, and basically in the movie, he's fighting off demons, and it's weird. But again, I like it. It's a good movie. It's got a lot of gags, stuff that'll kind of gross you out but make you laugh also. And of course, The Army of Darkness, the third and final of the Evil Dead series. Now, this is where Bruce gets sent back in time, and he gets sent to the what is it? Oh crap! Like somewhere, like in whatever century, but he gets sent to England, and he has to help all these people battle these demons called Deadites. And so in the movie, he wants to get, of course he has to go back home, back to his own time. And the only way to do that is by the powers of the Necronomicon, of course, the Book of the Dead. And so he has to go through this crazy journey to get to the book. And he goes into the cemetery where the Book of the Dead rests. And there's and before he picks the book off the thing where it rests, he has to say this weird line, Kleto Narakta Nikto. Of course, he says it wrong, grabs the book, takes it back, and since he didn't say the line right, it caused the army of the dead to awake, or the army of darkness. And so, yeah, so he has to band together all the people and help him fight off these this army of the dead, which basically nothing but a bunch of skeletons, and led by his evil side, Evil Ash, or Bad Ash. See what I did there? Bad Ash. Anyways, but I like this movie, and it's kind of crazy how, a classic scary movie would transform into, from that to this, him being in medieval times fighting. It's just weird. Feast. Now, I love this movie a lot. It's basically a bunch of people who are stuck in a tavern fighting off a family of monsters. And these monsters are freaking weird. I mean, look at those teeth. Look at them. Look at them. But yeah, it's weird. But I like it because all the action scenes and everything. And of course, it's got one of my favorite horror movie actors, Clu Gulager, who played in the movie Return of the Living Dead, which is a movie that I have, but we will get to that momentarily. But Feast, you haven't seen it, get it. Moving on. Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D. But, of course, this is a 2D version. Now, I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th. I'm a huge fan of Jason Voorhees. Forget your Freddy Kruegers, forget your Michael Myerses, even your Chuckies. Jason Voorhees is the man. Now, basically, people go to a camp, and of course Jason, who's still not dead, he kills them. And of course this is the movie where you see Jason wearing the hockey mask for the very first time. And so, it's kind of crazy because this girl, they're telling how many times you try and kill Jason, he keeps coming back. She does everything to kill him. Hanging him, beating him to death with weapons, even jamming an axe into his head, and he still does not die. I mean, really? How do you kill Jason exactly? There's a mystery. But, yeah. Alright, now moving on. The remake of The Hills Have Eyes. Now, of course, everybody has seen the original movie with Michael Berryman. Of course, y'all know I've brought his name up in my Devil's Rejects. But this movie is, of course, cool. But instead of, having the family as, just crazy cannibals, they have them deformed, from like a nuclear, like, it's weird. It's hard to explain. But, for a remake, this movie was actually pretty good itself. And of course, everybody knows how in the movie they set the dad on fire, they kill the two moms and kidnap the baby, and of course the main protagonist, who is the father of the baby, goes out to rescue them and everything. Of course, while the other two survivors left behind sets a trap off the other people who try to invade the trailer. And so, yeah. But this movie, I liked because it had a lot of fighting in it. I mean, what's a good horror movie without some fighting? But I like this movie, and if you haven't seen it, see it. Now, moving on. The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, the original sequel. Now, this movie, of course, was a sequel to the original. And it was weird. Of course, it shows the return of Michael Berryman reprising his role as Pluto. And it also has this other guy in the movie. His name is Papa Jupiter's brother. Really can't remember what his name was. But basically, it has all these it has dirt bikers going out into the desert for some strange reason, and they encounter the Pluto and his uncle, I guess you can say, and they're forced to fight them off and everything. And yeah. See, sorry if I really don't remember much out of these movies, because after, like I said, it's been a while since I've watched these movies, you know, so cut me some slack, you know. But I found out on the Wikipedia that this wasn't Wes Craven's best work. The only reason why he did this movie was because he was in the need of cash. But that right there, you see the cover. Right there. So you think you're lucky to be alive. Moving on. Now, I didn't buy this, but my parents, they got it at this store, and it has movies, of course, like Night of the Living Dead and Christmas Evil, The Ghost, The Snake People. Also other movies like Don't Look in the Basement, House on Haunted Hill, The House on the Edge of the Park, and Werewolf and Girls Dormitory. And I only watched it, my parents let me have this because I watched it more. Of course, Night of the Living Dead, a George Romero classic, his first ever movie he ever made. You know, and I've watched Christmas Evil a little bit. That movie's stupid. It's about a guy dressing up as Santa Claus going around killing people. And of course, House on Haunted Hill. I mean, I've only seen bits of that movie. Everybody knows that scene where that woman she's pounding on the walls and everything in the house, and when she turns around, that old woman is there, and she starts floating out of the room. Yeah. But I really don't know much. Land of the Dead, which was the fourth movie of made by George Romero, and it's kind of weird. It like takes place in a world where the zombies are still roaming the earth, and it's been years, and people, they have this weird way of having to live in a world where it's overrun by the dead and everything. And of course, this movie has Dennis Hopper and another guy. His name is John. I can't never pronounce his name, but I know he's Latino. You might remember him from the Super Mario's Brother movie, along with Dennis Hopper. But I like this movie. It was pretty cool. Land of the Dead. And it has this one zombie who goes by the name of Big Daddy, and he basically, what he does, he's like the lead zombie, and he's pretty much picking up where Bub left off from Day of the Dead. But I liked it, and what's really unique about this zombie movie, the zombies are very smart. They can communicate with each other, they can fight, they can shoot guns, and use baseball bats, and you know, it's crazy. And also in this movie, not only do you have to get bitten to turn into a zombie, but even if you die, you still become a zombie. So let's just say if you were to have a heart attack, and of course you die, you still turn into a zombie. And that is what's really weird and freaky. And kind of weird and lame. Because that's just, I don't know, it just really doesn't make any sense. If you die, you still become a zombie. I don't get it. But oh well, who cares? It's still a good movie. Now, moving on, Night of the Living Dead in 3D. Of course, this is a 2D version. Now, I've watched videos on YouTube where people were talking about this movie, reviewing it, and also saying that this movie was lame and cheesy and everything. But I have to find that this movie was actually pretty good. I mean, of course, it has the famous Sid Haig. See him with a pitchfork. Even though in the movie he's not wielding a pitchfork, he's wielding a shovel. And basically what the movie is, it's basically Barb. Yeah, instead of Barbara, they call her Barb. Barb and Johnny are going to the burial of their aunt. And it's kind of weird because in the first movie, you know, Barbara and Johnny are going to their father's grave. Then in the first remake, they're going to the mother's grave. Now they're going to their aunt's burial. So going there, they discover nobody's around, the coffin's not lowered, you know, and it turns out all the guests have become zombies, and instead of Johnny dying of his normal death where he gets his head banged on a gravestone, he gets bitten, gets into his car, drives off, leaves Barb high and dry, and so Barb is running for her life, you know, goes into the woods, of course, where it gets dark, gets attacked by zombies. Of course, she is saved by Ben. And this movie was also weird because Ben, everybody knows in the original and in the first remake, Ben was portrayed by a black dude. But instead, they have him portrayed by a white dude. And that was kind of weird and really strange. And then later on in the movie, you know, they go to this house, which is the Cooper family. And this is where it also gets crazy. The Cooper family are pot farmers. And instead of Harry Cooper, it's Henry Cooper. Now everybody knows how Henry Cooper, how he was a stick-up-his-butt guy, just that inconsiderate jerk in, you know, the first one, you know, in the original and the first remake. But him and Ben actually happen to be best friends in the movie. And it's really weird. And of course, Sid Haig, where does he come in? He plays a pyrophobic mortician. And later on in the movie, it's found out that he was the one behind this whole zombie plague. That he was able to bring the dead back to life with chemicals, with experiments that he had. And so, because he was supposed to, you know, these bodies that he brought back to life were actually supposed to be cremated, but him being a pyrophobic mortician, he thought, well, how about I just bring them back to life? That'll be much better. But create problems for other people. And again, I say, yeah, this was a good movie. I liked it because of the action and everything. I mean, I don't blame the director. He's not to blame for this movie. He stated in an interview, you know, let's try something different for once. Let's try something new. You know, let's not stick with the same storyline. I don't blame him. I don't blame him for doing that. You know, sometimes change is good. But again, this movie is good, but not great. Moving on, Living Dead. Now this movie right here is a classic, which I like a lot. And it's got one of my favorite actors known as Clu Gulager, who I brought up in my review on Feast. Now basically what it's about, in the movie they say that Night of the Living Dead was based on a true case, but the facts were all wrong and everything, and that Return of the Living Dead, their facts to zombies were right. And that the way they brought the zombies back to life was by a chemical called 2,4,5-trioxin, which, of course, created by the military and everything. And so, anyway, these zombies here are very, very unique. You know, for instance, one, they run, and they can also talk. I mean, these zombies are like very, very intelligent when you watch this movie. And instead of hunting humans for flesh, they hunt humans for brains. Because in the movie, a zombie explains the reason why they do this is because it eases their pain of being dead. It hurts to be dead. And the zombies, you know, they're always constantly yelling, "Brains, brains!" You know, and that line has, that line has probably made this movie famous the most. I mean, just for that one liner, brains. But I love this movie a lot. It's a classic. I mean, I love this movie to death. Return of the Living Dead. If you haven't seen it, get it. There's also they've also created some more sequels along the way. The second one was good. Really never seen the third one that much. Fourth and fifth one, garbage. But this movie was the one that started it all. Return of the Living Dead. And, you know, if you haven't seen it, watch it, you know. You never know, you might be surprised. Moving on, Shaun of the Dead. Of course, you know, you're nothing if you don't got this movie. Of course, this movie takes place in London, or England, I don't know. Basically, everybody knows it's the story of a slacker, and he becomes a hero fighting zombies. The end. But I like this movie. I really don't watch it too often, but this movie is very funny, and I also like it how it's really serious at the same time. How in the end it starts getting more darker when they're trapped in the bar, and the zombies start to invade the place, and Shaun really, you know, starts to become a one bad apple, you know, shooting zombies with the gun, even though he's a horrible shooter. He only gets like maybe 2 or 3 zombies in the head. And of course, in the movie, he acts like he doesn't know how to use a gun. He's like, "Oh gosh, it won't work." And then his friend Ed is like, "Shaun, cock it." But this movie, of course, is a ultimate classic. If you haven't seen it, get it. Moving on, we got Slither. Now this movie was very, very cool in a way, because it's taking movies like The Blob, Night of the Creeps, and all your favorite alien movies and putting it into one big movie known as Slither. And it's basically what it's about is this guy, he messes with this cocoon or this nest, and this thing like gets into his brain and starts messing with him. And so this alien controls his mind and everything, and it inherits everything, his thoughts, everything. And so later on in the movie, this creature who's been alone for so long, you know, he falls in love with the man who he now, with the man whose body he dwells in, falls in love with, you know, and it's really, and it's really beautiful in a way, because, you know, a guy, someone who's been alone for so long and they instantly fall in love with somebody, that is, you know, that is pretty sad. It's kind of like King Kong in a way. You know how King Kong falls in love with the woman and everything. But yeah. I like it because, of course, it's got zombies in it. I mean, you gotta love the zombies. And of course, the zombies, how you turn into one, the little worms, they get into your mouth and they control your brain, and you basically become a zombie. But this movie is very, very weird, freaky. If you love freaky, you know, stuff like that, you will love Slither. I remember my sister was always borrowing that movie from me all the time, and I don't know why. Of course, Stephen King's It. Now, some of the actors in this movie, you got like the guy who plays John Boy from the Waltons and John Ritter. And of course, this movie is based on the book. You know, it's basically a movie telling you about how you face your fears. And the clown, like he says, he tells the characters in the book, or in the movie, that he's everything they ever were afraid of. And again, it's just a movie about facing your fears in the story. Moving on. Now, I've been watching a lot of reviews on this movie, and I have been getting told that this was one of the crappiest movies you could ever lay your eyes on. Zombie Night. Now, this movie was shot in Canada, you know, and I have to admit, it had, you know, bad special effects, but acting was terrible. You know, it had like that emotionless acting, you know, and honestly, when I first rented this movie, I actually liked it. I guess because of the action, but when you take a look at it, the acting was pretty horrible, you know, and the sound effects were cheesy, the special effects and everything. The music was weird, you know, but I have to admit, you know, this movie was okay. I mean, it's not your Night of the Living Dead, it's not your zombie, it's not, you know, it's none of that. But, you know, it's just one of those B-grade, low-budget movies. You know, and I've always been a fan of movies like that. Not your fancy schmancy videos, like, you know, movies like that, but you know, you gotta give these people credit, you know, for making this movie. I mean, you know, at least they're doing something with their life. But I heard there was a sequel to this movie, like, I think it was Zombie Night 2, The Awakening. I saw the trailer for it. It looked pretty cool. But, you know, you might like it, you might not, you know. You never know. You might be surprised. And of course, you know, I got other movies like Friday the 13th, the remake. And then I got 4 movies in one. They're Night of the Living Dead 5 through, there's also Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, and Freddy vs. Jason. I only bought this because it had Freddy vs. Jason. I love that movie. I love it a lot. Also, one of my all-time, I saw this in theaters, My Soul to Take. Now, I really like this movie. Yep. And they're like, it's just, the storyline is hard to explain, but if you watch the movie, I'm pretty sure you'd like it because, you know, It's just one of those freaky movies. But you never know. Like I said, you might be surprised. Just gotta give things a chance. Well, this pretty much wraps it up for my collection of horror movie DVDs. And I hope you all enjoyed watching this just as I did making it. And stay tuned for more videos. And I'm DJ Moby saying, see you next time. Stay safe. And God bless. Later.
How them a try to test me? Go on, test the rocket launcher.
I know you scared, the blood stain was red. I feel dumb with lead. Hip hop is dead, he worked for the